In part 1, I field stripped the Henry rifle and got all the action parts out of it. Now I'm going to take you through the cleaning sequence on this gun. Okay, this is a little harder to get on camera than you might imagine, but here's my cleaning method. I use ballistol and water, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scrub the bore of this gun. And I'm going to do that. This is 10 parts of water, 1 part ballistol oil. And I do that by squirting a patch, getting it good and wet, and running it down the bore. And as you can see, pretty filthy. So I'm going to take another wet patch and run that down the bore. And get as much of the fouling out as I can. And we'll put a lot of rounds through this. I probably put 60 or 70 rounds through it yesterday. So there's been a lot of powder burned in that bore. Okay. Now I'm going to start running clean dry patches down here until they come up clean. So we'll just get going. It'll probably take a few. Alright, so let's see how we're doing. Okay, third patch. And we're looking good. So the bore is clear. Now what I do next is I just spray the entire action down with ballistol and water. And just get every nook and cranny covered up, get the bolt covered up good. And now I'm just going to wipe that off. And the water is what actually neutralizes the black powder fouling. The ballistol adds a little bit of oil to it, that's all, but water is what you really need. I want you to notice, as I am wiping this off, it is actually pretty clean in here. I'm not picking up a whole lot, a little bit, but not much. Most of what I'm picking up is really oil residue just from the lubricant in there. And that's because this gun is chambered in 4440. And 4440 has a very thin case mouth, so it really seals the chamber up against blowback. Now if this was a 45 Colt or a 38 Special, I would have more fouling back here in the action. With a 4440, I really wouldn't even have to clean the action every time. I do, but you'd be surprised. You don't have to. Just like you don't need to clean immediately after shooting. I usually wait a day. Let everything sit. And contrary to what you may have heard, that does not hurt it at all to go a day or two. So, I'm going to get all this stuff wiped off. And then we can start putting it back together. So with the bore and the inside of the action cleaned up, I'm going to move my attention to the action parts. And all I'm going to do is I am just going to spritz them on both sides with my ballistol and water mixture. And I'm going to wipe them off, and as I wipe them off, I'm going to transfer them to a clean cloth in the same order that I have them over here. And then we can put them back in. So before I reassemble it, I'm going to run some lube down the barrel. I used to lube with pure ballistol. Now I'm using this product called Reassembly. Try to get that where you can see it. Like ballast oil, it has an organic base. It's vegetable oil. Ballast oil is actually paraffin base, which most people don't realize. But the vegetable oil works great in black powder, and it has nanopolymers in it, suspended in it, and that really gets in the pores and smooths the gun up. This was really developed for AR-15s and the like, but the company asked me to try it on black powder a couple of years ago, which I did, and I have to admit, I think it works even better than just plain ballast oil. So I switched over to it, say a couple of years ago, and I don't clean with it, though I guess theoretically you could, but I think the ballast oil and water still does the best job for that. But for just lubing up the guns, it's hard to beat. It's an excellent rust preventative, and it's more slippery than ballast oil, so it helps to slick up the actions. Ready to reassemble the gun, and I'm not going to lie to you, this is the biggest pain in the butt. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to put the lifter block in, and I like to just put a little bit of CLP on it, and now we'll just push her back up into place. Okay, now trick with this is we got to get the lifter arm in, and it's got to go into that little hole in the lifter block, and you want to do that without cutting yourself up on this ridiculously sharp frame. So I'm going to get that in. Now that's got to line up with the lever. So lever's going to go in next, and we got to try to get those holes in alignment. Put a little something white underneath here so I can see it better, because it is wicked hard to see if you're lined up right, because we're lining up 4 holes and they got to be perfect. Okay. Alright. Now, the reason this is a lot harder, on a 73 we would be able to put that screw right back in even if we had taken the lever out, but we can't do it on a Henry or a 66 because we're going to have to put this plate back in before we can put the screw in. So what we got to do now is we've got to put the pins in. So I'm going to put the lever pin in first, right there. And then I'm going to put the frame pin in. Alright, now I'm going to try to drop these in so that all 3 of these pins basically go on at the same time. Alright. And I would say we done doed it. Alright. Now, I'm going to tighten this up just a little bit. Just a little bit. Right now, I am going to put this piece back in, and I'm going to try to get it lined up, and I'll tell you, this lower edge here is very sharp, so be careful. I'll line that up here, get that good and lined up on that hole. Alright, now I'm going to try to fit this screw in. And this is not easy. So what I'm got to do is I'm going to line up, once again, all of those holes. Okay. Now it's going to take a while. It's going to be boring on camera because basically you just got to feel your way in. So I'm going to turn this off, get it in, and then we'll flip her over. Okay, now I've got this in so that it's just not quite coming through here, but it's holding everything together. So now everything is in place. Now I can flip the gun around. I caught my microphone cables. I'm going to move that. I got the gun flipped around. Now I can do this side. So, got to get all 3 pins at exactly the same time, so it all slides in. Otherwise, it'll hang up. All right. There we go. I'm going to get this back on here. I'm going to tighten this up a little bit. Not all the way yet, just a little bit. Okay, now, taking this last plate, I'm going to slide it in, but first, push that screw all the way through. Let me give myself a little bit of room here. That's under pressure, so it's not, we're not having a whole lot of fun here, you know what I mean? I'm going to loosen that up again once I have this kind of lined up. Alright. Now, I'm going to loosen these up one more time. Just a little bit. Okay, now what I'm going to do is flip this over and screw this all the way through. Okay. Now, tighten these back up. There we go. See how that popped back down? That means we're fully tensioned. Alright, so, perfect. Okay. And we're good to go.